Hello everyone, I am Mr. Blind. Welcome to the fourth card, where today we will be discussing Magic the Gathering's aging player base and the implications that has on strategic brand management. Magic the Gathering is a game with over 30 years of history, with a robust community made up of members of diverse demographic, psychographic, and social backgrounds. As enjoyers of the game who are not Wizards of the Coast insiders, we do not have a detailed breakdown of what these demographics look like, but there are some hints that I believe could point us in some really interesting directions for this type of discussion. Hasbro, the parent company of Wizards of the Coast, is a publicly traded company, which means they release information to the public regularly out of legal obligation and/or to build reputation with potential investors. At the time of the recording of this video, if you were to visit the investor homepage for Magic the Gathering, which I will have linked in the description of this video, you would find, among other things, some information about player demographics. What is shared with us is the average age of a tabletop player is around 30 years old, and the majority range is from 13 to 45 years old. This is lacking a bit of clarity, so I will unpack this by sharing my assumptions. To begin, this specifically references the average tabletop player, which I believe simply means players who play with paper Magic cards as opposed to digital ones. My assumption here is that around 30 years old would mean that the average age of players rounded to the nearest single digit would be 30 years old. We also see that 1/3 of players have been playing less than 3 years, 1/3 of players between 3 and 10 years, and 1/3 of players have greater than 10 years of experience playing the game. Even with just these snippets of information, we've learned a lot about the life cycle of a Magic the Gathering player. For many players who become passionate about the hobby, this will be a game that stays with them for a significant portion of their lives. If we were going to think about this from a strategic brand management perspective, it might indicate to us that once players get over an initial barrier of entry, they can be converted to an enthusiast who may continue to play the game for a decade or more. Magic has steep barriers of entry due to it being a complicated, time-demanding, and oftentimes expensive hobby. Making these barriers less of an obstacle for newer players has clear strategic value. And there are some observable instances of Wizards of the Coast executing on this in the form of the new set Foundations, which has positioned itself with designs that are friendly for newer players and a beginner box product that will guide you through your first game of Magic. This is a welcome development that I think is a great step towards welcoming more players into the hobby in a way that is strongly strategically aligned with Wizards of the Coast's business strategy. But if that were the end of the story, I wouldn't be here discussing this with you. I want to take a look at a promotional video put together by the team that was responsible for the marketing campaign strategy for Foundations. Not the one with the dancing booster pack. In this video, Share Your Spark, we see a romanticized and touching interpretation of the journey of a Magic player, which begins in adolescence, sees friends and family connect through the game, and punctuates the story with a parent sharing the hobby with the next generation, with the new set Foundations being the catalyst of that moment. I want you to think back to the beginning of this video, when we learned that the average Magic the Gathering player's age is around 30 years old, as well as the fact that roughly 1/3 of Magic the Gathering players have been playing the game for 10 or more years. The central focus of this promo features an individual who closely matches this description, and has life milestones like connecting with a partner and raising a child. This tells us that the marketers at Wizards of the Coast believe that these life moments will resonate with the aging demographic, likely because they will be able to see themselves and their own life journey in the story told by the characters in this promo. So why does any of this matter? I think that this indicates that although Foundations is designed with the newer player in mind, Wizards of the Coast is acutely aware of how the aging portion of the Magic the Gathering player base plays a big role in onboarding a younger generation of newer players. There is a symbiotic relationship between newer players who need support learning the game and aging players who are willing to invest money in the hobby to share the joy of experiencing the game for the first time with a newer player. Roughly a year ago, my wife and I had a baby of our own, so I feel that the journey shown in the promo video is not that different than the one I'm currently experiencing. I really enjoyed the video, And it does help me feel seen in the sense that the people developing the game have an understanding of what's going on in my life and how the hobby persists throughout those major life changes. That being said, I feel that there's something missing here. I feel that although the important life changes experienced by aging Magic the Gathering players are being acknowledged by the marketing messages of Wizards of the Coast, there haven't been changes to their products that support the new pain points that the aging player base now experiences. Magic the Gathering is a hobby that asks its patrons for a high commitment of time, coordination, and money. Money is a challenge for most of us, but when it comes to time commitments and coordination, I suspect that these create pain points that disproportionately affect players that are close to or above that average age of 30, far more than it affects players of a younger demographic. For many of the premier ways to play the game, like draft, commander, and tournament play, you need 3 or more hours to have a complete and enjoyable experience through those modes of play. If your friends are at a similar stage of life, these problems are exacerbated to the point where getting an 8-player pod together to do something like a draft is an insurmountable obstacle. At this point, not due to any lack of desire to play the game, I own more Commander decks than Commander game nights that I can attend in a year's time span. This means that when I see new Commander deck products and new draftable booster boxes, these are enticing to me, but they just aren't realistic and don't make sense for me to buy into. I suspect I'm not alone in this experience. So the question now is, are folks who are in a similar life stage as myself supposed to de-escalate their involvement with the hobby until their kids reach an age where you can have that passing on of the torch moment, just like was shown in the promo video? If aging players represent a relatively small portion of the whole player base, then perhaps the answer is yes. Wizards of the Coast might be better off focusing on serving other demographics with more profitable products than courting the needs of the aging players. Given that the average age of tabletop players is around 30 years old, I suspect that aging players are not a small niche within the Magic community, and that instead, Wizards of the Coast has an opportunity here to address the pain points of this demographic with new products that will re-engage aging players in a profitable way. When you are designing a product, it is wise to consider what type of value you are offering to your consumer. Your products might be of the highest quality, allowing you to sell them at a higher price. Or it might be a budget option that removes unnecessary frills to pass on savings to your consumer. One way in which value can be offered to consumers through your product is to provide convenience and time savings. If you have been on YouTube for any amount of time, you have probably seen advertisements in videos for meal kit delivery services. For these services, the consumer pays a premium beyond the value of the individual components of the meal kit because the convenience of not having to plan a meal or go grocery shopping offers value to the consumer that is worth the extra price that they pay. Magic bizarrely doesn't offer that many options in terms of convenience, and in many core parts of the game has normalized inconvenience. Even something as simple as putting together a deck to play in a tournament has a massive time commitment involved in terms of researching a deck and ordering the individual cards from third-party websites. Hours spent on these activities before actually even getting to enjoy playing the game are kind of similar to the meal planning and grocery shopping portion of getting a meal ready. There is an untapped and easily monetizable need that Wizards of the Coast has been failing to address. They need the Magic the Gathering equivalent of a meal kit delivery service. We have seen Wizards of the Coast over the past few years lean increasingly more and more into Commander due to how profitable Commander products are. I suspect that an underappreciated driver for the popularity of the Commander format and how profitable its products are is that the pre-constructed Commander decks are essentially the only Magic the Gathering product on the market right now that monetizes the player's need for convenience and time savings. The trouble is, as I mentioned before, Commander games require you to coordinate with multiple friends or go to a local game store, which makes the format itself an obstacle in terms of convenience and time for the aging players. The conclusion here is that I believe that the current focus of products being on booster boxes and Commander is failing to serve the increasingly large demographic of aging players who are eager to spend on the hobby but don't have a product built that caters to their needs. I believe that the market is ready for Wizards of the Coast to release a new product that supports a highly replayable, fast, 1v1 format that is ready to play out of the box. I think there is more than one correct answer in what this sort of product might look like, and I'd like to discuss those in the future on this channel because I think the unique strengths and weaknesses of each of these will play a critical role into understanding which would be the most successful. If you enjoyed this video, I'd like to encourage you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I enjoy putting together video content, but long video essays like this represent a significant time commitment for me. So your feedback and support will go a long way in helping me understand what type of content I should be spending my time on creating in the future. On a related note, if you are interested in seeing other content I've created, you can visit the MTG 3-Card Blind channel to learn more about how you can play Magic with just 3 cards. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you soon.